Hey everyone, welcome back to Brain Boogers. I'm MJ, and today we're tying everything we've learned about the Big Five personality traits, or CANOE. We'll explore how these traits show up in your life, how to measure and understand them, and practical ways to use this knowledge for personal growth. If you haven't, please click the subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss the latest. Share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration. Your experiences help us all move forward together. Before we begin, please note the content shared on this podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only and is based on research, personal experiences as a coach, and anecdotes from my wellness journey. I am not a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, or licensed mental health professional. This podcast does not offer medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are experiencing mental health issues or have inquiries concerning your well-being, it is advised to seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider or mental health professional. Thank you for joining me on this journey to understand ourselves better, and by extension, our community. We've learned much about ourselves from the perspective of our personality traits and its myriad facets and expressions, attachment and coping styles, and how we can heal ourselves as we discover who we are through introspection. And just as some plants grow at a different rate, yet as a whole is growth, so too do we see our own growth in parts, affecting our entirety. So here's what we've learned about ourselves through a few models. We can see how we interact with each other through the CANOE model and spectrum. This is for conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, openness to experience, and extroversion. I think I've said it enough to this point, I've beat it in your head, sorry. We can see each trait having a role, such as for an understanding of our how-to and our mental manual, we look at our conscientiousness. We understand its role in planning, accountability, and organization. Playing the role of community builder through our expression of kindness, collaboration, and empathy, we look at agreeableness. Standing up as our lookout, our sentry, our resilience is neuroticism with its challenges and its superpowers. Entertaining us when we're bored, offering options for interpersonal interactions with our curiosity and adaptability is openness to experience. And topping off the list as our energy source and management, driving engagement, connection, and action is extroversion. We understand our expression of CANOE through the NEO-PI-R, an assessment tool measuring the expression of the CANOE spectrum through 6 facets or subcategories. Now, I know I didn't touch on this much on conscientiousness or agreeableness, but here we go. So, let's look at the CANOE and each set of respective facets. For conscientiousness, they are competence, order, sense of obligation, achievement striving, self-discipline, and deliberation. For agreeableness, they are trust in others, morality, altruism, cooperation, modesty, and sympathy. For neuroticism, they are anxiety, anger, depression, self-consciousness, impulsiveness, and vulnerability to stress. For openness to experience, they are aesthetics, actions, fantasy, curiosity, feelings, and values. And for extroversion, they are gregariousness, activity, assertiveness, kindness, excitement seeking, and positive emotions. We took another look at our CANOE from the perspective of superpowers and challenges. This is a great way to see the strengths and growth edges in every trait. No trait is good or bad, just different flavors of being human, as we highlighted in our discussion on neuroticism. For conscientiousness, we can see it expressed as a superpower through organization, reliability, self-discipline, goal achievement, and attention to detail, and as a challenge for perfectionism, rigidity, overworking, difficulty relaxing, and being overly critical of self and others. For agreeableness, we can see it expressed as a superpower through empathy, kindness, cooperation, and an ability to build trust and harmony, and as a challenge through people-pleasing, difficulty asserting needs, avoiding necessary conflict, and being taken advantage of. For neuroticism, we can see it expressed as a superpower through emotional depth, sensitivity, self-awareness, and vigilance to problems, and as a challenge through anxiety, mood swings, overthinking, vulnerability to stress, and self-doubt. For openness to experience, we can see it expressed as a superpower through creativity, curiosity, imagination, adaptability, and an appreciation for art and new ideas. And as a challenge through indecisiveness, restlessness, difficulty with routine, and sometimes being impractical or scattered. For extroversion, we can see it expressed as a superpower through social energy, enthusiasm, assertiveness, and an ability to connect and motivate others. And as a challenge through overcommitment, impulsivity, difficulty being alone, sometimes dominating conversations, or overlooking quieter voices. We learn that we see the world through our attachment styles, developed in our formative years. Here's a breakdown of how each trait might show up through the lens of our 4 main attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and fearful avoidant. For conscientiousness, individuals with an attachment style that is secure is often organized, reliable, and able to set healthy boundaries. They also use planning to support both self and relationships. Individuals with an attachment style that is anxious may become overly perfectionistic, trying to control outcomes to gain approval or avoid rejection, and they can be hard on themselves if things go wrong. Individuals with an attachment style that is avoidant may use organization as a way to maintain distance, and may focus on tasks over emotions or relationships. And individuals with an attachment style that is fearful avoidant may swing between bursts of organization and periods of chaos, depending on emotional state and trust in others. For agreeableness, an individual with an attachment style that is secure is often warm, empathetic, and able to cooperate without losing self-respect. They can balance kindness with assertiveness. Individuals with an attachment style that is anxious may become overly agreeable, people-pleasing, or sacrificing their own needs for fear of losing connection. Individuals with an attachment style that is avoidant can appear polite but emotionally distant, may avoid deeper connection or conflict by being superficially agreeable. And individuals with an attachment style that is fearful avoidant alternates between seeking closeness and pushing others away, and sometimes showing warmth and at other times withdrawing. For neuroticism, an individual with an attachment style that is secure experiences normal ups and downs but manages emotions well, and seeks support when needed. Individuals with an attachment style that is anxious may experience high emotional reactivity, worries about relationships, and may seek constant reassurance. Individuals with an attachment style that is avoidant may suppress or hide emotional distress, and they may appear calm, but are often internally stressed or detached. And an individual with an attachment style that is fearful avoidant may experience intense emotional swings, unpredictability, and struggle to regulate emotions, and may both crave and fear intimacy. For openness to experience, individuals with an attachment style that is secure express being open to new ideas and experiences and a willingness to try new things in relationships and life. Individuals with an attachment style that is anxious may be open but seeks approval or reassurance before trying new things, and can fear rejection if their ideas are not accepted. Individuals with an attachment style that is avoidant may prefer familiar routines to avoid vulnerability, and are less likely to share creative or unconventional ideas. And individuals with an attachment style that is fearful avoidant may fluctuate between craving novelty and fearing the unpredictability it brings. And for extroversion, individuals with an attachment style that is secure tends to enjoy social connection, communicates openly, and feels comfortable both alone and with others. Individuals with an attachment style that is anxious may seek out social interaction for reassurance and may worry about being liked or included. Individuals with an attachment style that is avoidant may appear sociable but keep social distance using socializing to avoid intimacy. And individuals with an attachment style that is fearful avoidant may swing between wanting connection and withdrawing, and may be outgoing one moment and isolated the next. We learned our CANOE traits don't exist in a vacuum, and our attachment style colors how you express them in daily life, relationships, and self-care. Recognizing this interplay can help you understand yourself and others with more depth and compassion. We learned about the basic PH coping model as these 6 ways we manage our resilience. Belief, affect, social engagement, imagination, cognition, and physical manifestations. Through conscientiousness, our belief helps us find purpose in structure, rules, and personal values. Our affect may aid regulating our emotions through planning or routine. Our social interaction offers practical help for others and ourselves. Our imagination uses visualization for goal setting or productivity. Our cognition leans heavily on planning, lists, and logical analysis. And we may use disciplined routines such as exercise, meditation, and sleep for self-care. Through agreeableness, our belief draws strength from values of kindness and harmony. Our affect openly shares and processes emotions, especially empathy. Our social interaction seeks and provides support and values cooperation. Our imagination uses creativity to help or comfort others. Our cognition tries to see all perspectives, mediates conflicts, and physically, we may use touch, such as hugs or just our presence, as comfort. Through neuroticism, we may question or seek reassurance in beliefs during stress. Our affect experiences and expresses strong emotions, and we may ruminate. We may seek social interaction for reassurance or validation from others. Our active imaginations might parade worst-case scenarios, or we may seek escape through daydreaming. Our cognition may lead to overthinking or overanalyzing problems, sometimes increasing anxiety. And physically, we might feel stress in the form of muscle tension or headaches, and we may use or avoid physical coping. Through openness to experience, our belief helps us to be open to exploring new philosophies or spiritual practices. Our affect may aid us in being willing to experience and express a wide range of emotions. We enjoy connecting with diverse people and ideas. We may lean into creative outlets like art, writing, and visualization for coping. We may approach problems with curiosity and flexible thinking, and we may be open to trying new physical practices like yoga, dance, and adventure sports. And through extroversion, our belief draws energy from shared beliefs and group rituals. Our affect expresses emotions outwardly, often with enthusiasm. We may strongly prefer social coping by seeking out our friends, groups, or social networks. Our imagination may use group brainstorming or collaborative creativity. Our cognition processes thoughts by talking them out or seeking feedback, and we enjoy active, group-based physical coping through team sports or group fitness. Your CANOE traits shape which coping strategies feel most natural and effective for you, and which ones you might want to develop further for balance and resilience. Understanding this interplay can help you expand your coping toolkit and respond to challenges with more self-awareness. Now, topping us off is how our personality traits might be expressed through the practice of Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian method of reconciliation, forgiveness, and emotional clearing. This can help us see how our personality shapes the way we approach healing and self-compassion. Through conscientiousness, Ho'oponopono approaches the practice with structure and intention, perhaps creating a regular ritual or journaling process. Individuals may use Ho'oponopono to set things right, repair relationships, and fulfill a sense of moral responsibility. Here you can focus on healing by forgiving yourself for mistakes, letting go of perfectionism, and releasing the need for control. Through agreeableness, Ho'oponopono naturally draws us to the empathy and compassion at the heart of the practice. We can use the practice to mend relationships, express understanding, and offer forgiveness freely. Here, you can focus on healing by letting go of resentment, healing from people pleasing, and learning to forgive ourselves as easily as others. Through neuroticism, individuals may use the practice to soothe emotional turbulence, calm anxiety, and process intense feelings. We may find relief in these structured affirmations: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you, as a way to regulate emotions. Here we focus on releasing guilt, self-criticism, and overthinking, and begin fostering self-acceptance and emotional balance. Through openness to experience, we can embrace the spiritual and creative aspects of the practice, perhaps adapting it in unique ways via meditation, art, and visualization, and open to exploring the deeper meanings and transformative power of forgiveness. Here, we focus on using Ho'oponopono as a path to personal growth, insight, and new perspectives on relationship and ourself. Through extroversion, we may practice Ho'oponopono openly, talking through the process with others using group rituals or sharing the practice within our community, and find healing in reconnecting, restoring harmony in relationships. Here we focus on letting go of social conflicts, forgiving self for overextending, and using the practice to maintain healthy, vibrant connections. No matter your canoe profile, Ho'oponopono can be adapted to support your unique path: forgiveness, self-acceptance, and relationship repair. And this brings us to the end of this deep dive. We learned that your canoe profile is a map for growth, not a box to stay in. You can reflect on your Neo-PIR results, notice how your attachment style influences your expression, and try new coping strategies from the basic PH model. You can practice Ho'oponopono as a tool for healing and self-compassion, and growth is about progress and acceptance, so keep showing up for yourself. So why this? Why start here? Why start with canoe? I wanted to start with canoe as I felt it would be the easiest to grasp, as well as since most of us have heard these terms, then we'd have some connection as we're considering how we express each trait. I know I don't want this podcast to be religion focused. However, I recognize that the constraints imposed by mass faith belief has led us to curiosity and discovery. It has taken time for me to accept cherry picking, where I can take the edible parts of various beliefs, research, and sciences and piece them together into a working system. Learning about myself took a willingness to take responsibility, and that's a difficult task for most of us to take on. And I don't mean to impose mental masochism. Present information that I find useful for discovering ourselves, and when we do, we may be pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised at what we see. And I hope that when we witness what we uncover, that we feel empowered because we took the steps to make things happen. We took the time to say, where do I see myself with this new or expanded understanding? For example, I wondered for years why I speak the way I do. Some of you are thinking, what's wrong with how you speak? And others may be thinking, yeah, MJ is a bit proper and always using big words, so annoying. The nerd in me really wants to jump into a linguistics rabbit hole right now and talk about phonetics and how environment, affect how we do what we do, but we don't have the time. But I will say, for years I'd asked my mom, who told me I wanted to speak like the other kids in school. However, the issue with that is I was made fun of how I speak at school. Can you believe it? In school, mind you, I attended a magnet school and I got teased for speaking proper. Now, while this booger nagged at me, I tried to listen better, and in listening and slowing down, finally got to the answer. You see, as a child, my mom would not only turn on the light to wake me up, but would also turn on the radio. I think she did this because of an assignment we had from school about current events, or maybe she felt this was the best way to get her child out of bed. Anyways, every morning I heard the voices of Bill Curtis, Felicia Middlebrooks, and Pat Cassidy, news anchors on WBBM News Radio 78 in Chicago. And I wanted to say it that way so that you heard it because that's how I heard it all the time. WBBM News Radio 78. So anyway, to this day, I say harassment, W, advertisement, and Jesus, the way they did. And that wasn't all. In the evening, I would hear the voice of host Taft Harris on a gospel radio station, and I would mimic his enunciations. It took me almost 30 years to figure that out. I'm happy that I finally did. Here's another example. A good friend of mine told me that I usually keep a very zen and chill energy in my home. And the way that my apartment was set up, it was actually pretty sweet. I had an open back door to a park, and it would be so quiet. And I would sit there with the door open and listen to the rainfall. And, on days when it will be windy, listening to the trees as they would bend and the leaves as they would push against each other. And it was always quiet. And I had south facing windows, so I had enough light coming in. And so the light plus the air plus the sound and the ambiance just created an energy. Plus, having some incense going and other herbals in the room was also helpful. But it created an energy, and I think that stemmed from the experience of growing up in my great grandmother's house, where she would tell my sister and I to shut up all that noise, or would tell me that I couldn't ride my bike in the house. I did. I would ride my bike in the house. I thought I could, but anyway, today I don't attempt to ride a bike in the house. But also, my great grandmother's house had incense, quite often, and I remember that smell of incense. And it brought about a sense of calm, and that is something that carried forward. So that's the energy that I have in my home. And I can tell you that the loudest thing at times in my house right now is either my dog barking at a squirrel 2 streets to the south, or some horrible song that my partner has me listening to from YouTube, because it's such a good earworm, like "If God Don't Do It, It Won't Get Done," or "Taste That Honey Sauce." Or especially in the winter, if it's so cold in the D, or my neighbors. The point is, I keep a quiet and chill home, and that's because I want my energy to be quiet and chill, and this is because of the influence of my formative years. I will also say that me having a Zen home now, or a Zen energy, as I try to and thus share this, like, hey, once we know about ourselves, what we can do and get better, um, also stems from the fact that I was a very moody and neurotic child. I didn't know about attachment styles, adverse childhood experiences, or awareness. Well, maybe awareness, because as a child I had quite the temper, and people made it a point to tell me that. Nothing to brag about, but my fifth grade teacher told me after an outburst that likely gave me a headache, "If you keep this up, you'll have a heart attack at a young age." Talk about slamming on the brakes. This teacher said, "If you aren't able to regulate your emotional reactions, you'll be a victim of your own doing because you haven't mastered yourself." Couple that with my mom telling me as I would walk out the door to get on the school bus, if they know what buttons to push, they will. And if they're pressing buttons and you're reacting, you're giving up your own control. So the lessons were there, and time would make everything gel. Fast forward to a moment with my mentor when I was talking about my issues with relationships, and he said, "What are you attracting to yourself?" Or when I quit from working as a personal assistant and told my friend and brother that they made me quit, and he said, "You chose to quit." And I didn't have a solid comeback, knowing he was right. In all of these examples, I faced the grit of the hard decision to look at what I'd created, how I expressed myself, and how I viewed others. So it's this reason I wanted to talk about CANOE, and coping through our beliefs, and understanding as well when we're taken advantage of because we didn't read the manual, weren't given access to the manual, or didn't even have a clue that there was a manual. I hope talking about CANOE in a way that highlights your superpowers helps you see yourself as mighty, amazing, phenomenal, and dynamic. That where you are now does not dictate where you'll be tomorrow. That while you may have been wrestling with that tar baby, it may be time to actively roll into the briar patch for freedom. It's going to sting. It's going to hurt. It will be painful. And just like the muscles that are stressed get trained and toned, the personality muscles you'll start to flex will develop strength and stamina. That as you learn about how you take in and process information, that you'll better understand how to give it to others when necessary, and be sanguine, knowing that you're learning something new. Some gap is being filled and a connection is strengthened. As I look at my nephew, whom my sister says is a clone of me, I take notice of how we're influenced by how he's influenced. And to that point, oftentimes we don't see something until we are exposed to it, or until something outside of our bubble creates a distortion and piques our curiosity. I appreciate the reach out from listeners who've developed a better awareness of their personality traits, how they manifest, and how to manage them. I was particularly happy to present the information on neuroticism, as I heard it thrown around as a bad trait for decades. And much like I took issue with the preachers who would tell me that my body was evil and sinful and a segregation from grace, I had to change what I was hearing to love me, the one who I could count on the most. And as I improved me, others I orbited would also find benefit. And that we struggle with things for a while until we better understand them. That my neuroticism can be managed and used for greatness. Not in emotional instability, but in saying, I've seen this before, let's be mindful. Or, I was upset the last time I saw this, and now that I know what to do, I can approach this differently. Or that my anger isn't a bad thing when it wells up every quarter or so, and that it tells me something needs to be fixed or addressed. Like when you realize dogs growl when they're playing and in defense, and it takes other cues to learn the difference. Growing up, I heard the minister say you preach to yourself first before you deliver sermons to others. And that's what's happening here. Granted, I am not trying to preach, politic, or prosecute. As I've picked up nuggets of delicious word salads like ignorance is a voluntary misfortune, or sometimes we talk about the wrong thing to the wrong people, or that people can form whatever opinion of you they want based on a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of your time on earth. And they're still trying to get their lives together. When we understand this, by sweeping around our own front door before sweeping around others, we find freedom from the chains and labor we've often laid on ourselves and ascribed to others. We shift from an external locus of control to an internal locus. We shift from having to being. We understand our need for belonging and our need for freedom. We shift from a personality orientation of receptive, hoarding, marketing, and exploitation to one of productivity and foundation building. I hope that in sharing this, the next 40 years will be different for you, or the better for those who make things happen. Here's a quote from the late 1800s. A wise old owl lived in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Now, wasn't he a wise old bird? If you found value in today's episode, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss the latest insights. Share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration. Your experiences help us all move forward together. Check out the previous episodes on each of the personality traits for more expanded deep dives. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Big Five. If you've learned something new about yourself, I'd love to hear from you. Remember, your personality is your superpower. Use it with awareness, kindness, and curiosity. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep showing up for yourself. Take care, and join me next time where we'll pick and dig in on brain boogers.